Mr. Vinay Tiwari,
Yes, sir.
please introduce yourself.
Okay, sir. Uh, my name is Vinay Kumar Tiwari, and I belong to Sultanpur district of Uttar Pradesh, and I have completed my graduation from University of Allahabad, and my subjects were English literature, geography, and defense studies. And after that, I completed my post graduation from University of Allahabad in English literature, and that was in the year 2007. After that, I have learned German from Max Muller-Thorn Goethe Institute, Mumbai, and that was from December 2007 to December 2008. After that, I worked for Tata Consultancy Services, Vadodara, as a German language expert for 15 months. After that, I joined Modi University of Science and Technology in the year 2010. That was October 2010, and there I have been teaching German language and English language courses. And I have recently quit my job from there, and I have joined another university as assistant professor in German language there in Bhopal.
Okay, it
And
means you are very good student of German language, basically. And
yes, sir.
German language and German literature has lots of influence on English literature and
Yes, sir.
language as well.
Yes, sir.
So, can you tell us about certain influences
Hmm.
that German culture, language, literature, left on the English literature?
Sir, I don't know that deep, but I do know certain great scholars and people who have really influenced English literature. One of the prominent names is uh, Martin Luther, the reformer. Okay, so from
Okay,
whose name the Reformation is known as, and he gave the 95 theses he talked about on actually on the basis of that. Uh, Protestantism came to English literature also. And then we have one more prominent name, that is John Wolfgang Goethe, who has been one of the precursors of Romanticism in Germany, and from there, Romanticism also spread to other countries, especially Britain and other countries.
okay, that's very good. And it has been said that Coleridge, Samuel
Yes, sir.
Taylor Coleridge, had a lot of influence. Okay, from
Yes,
German
sir.
side. Okay, from German side. Do you know? Do have you studied something about Samuel Taylor Coleridge? Have you studied any text from him?
Uh, As far as text is concerned, sir, I haven't gone through any text particularly from Samuel Coleridge, but I do know about his famous literary work, Biographia Literaria, that was published in the year 1817. And that was like he has also been responsible for bringing the Romanticism in England. That came with the publication of Lyrical Ballads in 1798.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How would you define romanticism?
Romanticism, according to me, is writing for common man, using the common language, so that the language that is being used by the poets of the romantic age, that is the language of common people, so that the common people can understand the literature of that particular age, so that uh, there is no show off of scholasticism. Okay, and common man basically is related to romanticism, and it also focuses a lot on the imagination.
Imagination. It means, is there no value of nature or natural things in romanticism?
Yes, sir. There is definitely the value of nature and romanticism that I actually forgot to include here. There is
Okay.
definitely, because yeah, Wordsworth himself has written a lot of poetry where influence of nature can be seen.
Okay, Wordsworth and Coleridge both had some differences.
Hmm.
Wordsworth tried to, and like Wordsworth tried to put coloring on natural things, while Coleridge tried to, capture some kind of supernatural elements, some kind of supernatural, you can say, descriptions. How do you find that supernatural element is very much natural? You know, how is it related to romanticism?
I'm sorry, sir, I can't say much about this, and I don't have any perfect answer for this.
Okay, what was a special paper in your MA final year? It
This was
means
20th century literature.
okay, that's very good. 20th century literature. And how do you define, modernism, modern age?
Modern age is the age of where people are actually fed up with whatever has happened in the previous ages, and they're not actually ready to trust the people, and they're also bored of industrial revolution, because the people have recently seen the two world wars, first world war and the second world war. These two world wars have taken place, and a lot of killing has actually taken place, so the people are not able to trust each other.
It
And
means, okay, that's where that's good. But you referred a particular term that people were fed up with industrial revolution.
hmm,
The same can be said about romanticism, because romantic writers were completely fed up with the industrial revolution. Okay,
yes sir,
so
yes sir.
they turn to nature. In that way, you may call that every age is modern age. Okay, then
Yes, sir.
how can you differentiate the 20th century modern age with other modern ages?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not able to actually, define this or differentiate here.
Okay. Do you see do you see any difference between modernism and postmodernism? How do you define postmodernism?
The postmodernism is an age that has actually starts after modernism, and the present age in which we are living, that is the postmodernism. And here again, the trust level of the people has really gone down in the people, and people are not able to trust others. So that's what my perception is, and this is uh,
Okay, that's good. Somewhat it is good. And do you like any particular writer? Do
in
you in literature? In literature.
literature, sir. As if you ask me personally, then I don't have any personal liking for any particular writer, but actually I like reading Wordsworth, and Wordsworth especially, and I also admire John Keats from the
Okay, John
Romantic.
Keats.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nidis, please continue.
Yes, as you mentioned that you love to read Wordsworth and Keats.
Yes,
How
sir.
many poems you have read of Wordsworth and Keats? Because you mentioned that these two are your favorite.
Yes, sir. Actually, cannot count, but I cannot give you the exact number. But I'm actually familiar, or have tried to go through their major poems, like some of the famous poems, Daffodils of William Wordsworth, and then London 1802, that is dedicated to John Milton. Okay, and where Wordsworth is actually invoking John Milton to come to this present day so that he can actually improve the situation of the present situation of England and London. And then another fine poem I find from Wordsworth's pen is that is Solitary Reaper, where he is actually praising the uh, solitary girl that is actually reaping the harvest in some lonely fields. So these are some of the poems I have actually gone through.
Okay, in which form usually Wordsworth like to compose his poems? Stanza form.
Stanza form.
The favorite of Wordsworth. He usually like to compose his poem in that stanza
Lyric,
form.
lyric,
Lyric, do you want
no,
to say that lyric is a stanza form?
no, sir. I just, sir, I can't recall right now.
What about blank verse?
Blank verse. Yes, there is, there is, there is no rhyming, but there is no rhyming in this.
And this is
And yeah, yes, sir.
if any poem that doesn't have a rhyme scheme,
Mhm.
will it be called blank verse? Free verse. What about free verse? It also doesn't have rhyme scheme.
I'm slightly confused right now, uh, so I can't answer it better.
Okay, which genre of literature do you like the most? Drama, poetry, fiction, prose. Prose that means essay.
I like fiction, sir. Fiction,
What? What?
fiction.
Fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, what is dystopia?
Dystopian. Dystopia is a kind of novel in which actually the novelist tries to talk about uh, certain incidents which will be responsible for the destruction of the world, and this is the main theme. And this may happen through the explosion of atomic bomb or some meteorite clashing with the Earth planet, or any other natural calamity taking place, and that can actually destroy the world. We can include under dystopian novels.
This is
This is
also
the
this is also
yes,
the subject matter of science fiction.
yes, sir.
So what's the difference between the two,
What
dystopian and science fiction?
what I understand is, sir, in science fiction, the novelist or the writer tries to focus on the uh, innovations of science in future, whereas in the dystopian novel, uh, the novelist tries to focus how these innovations of science can actually lead to the destruction of the world. That I think is the difference between the science fiction and dystopian novel.
Is there any novelist belong to romantic era or 18th or 19th century who can also be a group with writers of science fiction?
From 19th century,
Yeah, 18th or 19th century.
uh, Mary Wollstonecraft. No. There's one writer. Just not able to recall, sir. Not able to recall.
What is narrative?
Narrative.
Yes.
Narrative is kind of ideology by certain people or certain group, in which actually the group or the person tries to actually advance their views about any particular thinking or thought process. That I understand is narrative.
Difference between narrative and story?
Difference between narrative and story. I'm sorry, sir.
Narrative and play, narrative and drama,
Narrative
difference.
and narrative, sir. I think simply anybody can talk about their point of view in plain language, or they can also advance their
Okay, okay,
statement
Niyamit.
uh,
Yes, you told that you were teaching language,
yes, sir.
German and English
Yes, sir.
for to engineering or
Yes,
other
sir.
that kind of students, engineering or
Yeah,
technical students of.
Engi- engineering and law students, especially, sir.
Okay. Uh, what is the basic of writing skills?
Basics of writing is sir, first of all, I believe the person must have good knowledge of grammar, so that person can frame correct sentences, and then also the thought process is also very important, so that the person can convert that thought process into good, correct grammatical sentences. These two things I really believe are the important things
What's the
for
difference
writing.
between biodata, resume, and CV? What's the full form? First, tell me what is the full form of CV?
CV, sir, is actually a French origin word that is short and abbreviated, and it is curriculum vitae. And
Yes.
this is in fact larger in nature, and it is the entire description about the person's life. It includes his personal details as well as his academic details, what the person has achieved during his academic life cycle, and also it talks about the brief personal details of that particular person. Whereas biodata is very brief, it talks very briefly, gives the basic information about the person. And if we talk about resume is a little, in fact, a little longer in length in comparison to biodata, but shorter than curriculum vitae CV.
Which is informal? Biodata, resume, or CV?
Biodata is informal, and whereas CV and the resume come under formal.
Okay, what are the different parts of application? How should
Uh,
we start and how should we end? And what comes in between the beginning and the end?
So we must start an application. Uh, okay, first of
What?
all, we must start an application uh, at the with the date, and then addressing the person to whom we are actually writing the application. After that, subject matter about which we are writing the application, that will come, and then the content of the
Remember,
application.
I'm not asking application of a student, or just let's change the word. Formal letter
Okay.
means suppose a company is sending a proposal to another company.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Yes,
Got
sir.
it? So
Yes,
that
sir.
I am talking about that letter.
Okay.
What should be on the top? Header, footer, whatever. Just
Mhm.
describe the overall structure. What should be there and what should be there. Do
Okay.
you get the question?
Yes, sir. Kind of. I'm able to understand the question, and
Yes.
so this should be written on the letterhead of the company, and
What should be
person.
in the letter? What should be on the top of the letterhead?
First of all, the person who is writing, the address of that person, designation from whose side the letter is being dispatched, and then after that the addressee to whom the letter is dispatched, the name, company, designation, all these things will come, and after that the subject matter, and then the entire content will follow whatever we have to convey briefly in succinct manner that we are able to convey. That will come, and then we'll actually close the letter formally with sincere regards and thanking you, closing words.
Okay,
What is
that's very
easy
nice.
to
Hmm.
I think
what
that
is
Ravi sir also Ravi sir should get opportunity to ask certain questions.
Yes, sir.
yes
Mm.
Okay, Tiwari ji.
Yes,
So,
sir.
how do you differentiate a phrase and a clause?
Okay, sir. Phrase is a group of words that makes some sense. Okay, it does not have a complete sense, whereas clause is actually the part of the sentence, and clause has a subject and its own verb.
Which
Okay,
verb?
so its own verb. Sub Clause has a subject and a verb.
What is the nature of the verb that a clause has?
What is the nature? So
Yeah.
what do you, sir, exactly mean by the nature here?
What type of verb does a clause use?
Sir, I'm not able to get the question.
Okay.
Could you please elaborate this further
Uh,
by certain examples?
does
Like
a clause use a finite verb or a non-finite verb?
it can use it uses finite verb.
And a phrase uses finite verb or a non-finite verb?
So there is a phrase can use any kind of verb, sir, because it is not bound by that rule.
Okay, give me an example where a phrase is using a finite verb.
Phrase is
Okay, I'm giving you a
okay.
sentence.
Okay, so, okay.
I'm giving you a sentence in direct speech. Change it into indirect speech.
Okay, sir.
She said to him.
She
She
said to him.
said to him,
Mm.
I must leave now.
She said to him, "I must
Leave
leave."
now.
Okay. She told him that she had to leave then.
Okay, very good.
Hmm.
All right. So,
Okay, sir.
Tiwari ji, tell me,
Yes,
in English, we have lot of figures of speech, right?
yes, sir.
So, do you like any figure of speech personally? Any one of them?
Uh, Actually, I did not think about this that I like or dislike any one of them,
Mm-hmm.
but simile, metaphor, all these basic uh, figures of speeches are
There's a figure
actually
of speech called chiasmus. Do you know about
cheers.
it?
Cheersness. Yes, sir. I have heard about this. I have heard about this,
But you,
but right now can't recall the definition. So,
all right. Okay,
but
one last question.
yes,
If
sir.
you meet a group of students,
Yes,
that is
sir.
a class. If you get a class which is very naughty, and
Yes, sir.
even the principal and senior teachers are finding it very difficult to control that class and teach them,
Mm.
right?
Yes, sir.
So, and you become the class teacher of that class. Other than
Okay.
your teaching subject, you also become the class teacher of that class. What strategy do you use to handle such a class and to teach such a class?
So actually, I would like, first of all, I would like to talk to the students, and I would like to know about their interest areas and would like to know what are they good at. And accordingly, I would like to give them certain assignments, and so that they can make themselves busy in doing the creative work. And I would also like to know their strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so I'd like to encourage their strength areas so that they should work upon their strengths, and uh, and also would like to emphasize upon their weaknesses that this is not going to be helpful for their
But the
future.
things you are talking about, I guess other teachers must have already done and they have failed, right? So, what is new that you would do? Anything special?
So, so basically, I would like to take them into confidence that I'm really going to do certain wonderful things for them, and the class will be really, in fact, helpful and very good for their future. And with the passage of time, I'm sure I will be able to win their confidence and improve the behavior of the class.
Okay, in the same class you have a student who is very naughty and who is very arrogant, and you go to teach the class. He doesn't listen to you. He's always very arrogant, and he tries to argue with you. And he is like keeping his bag here and there, and his hairstyle is like going this way and that way. His style is his this button is open, and all these things are there. So what would you do with that student?
Sir, as far as the hairstyle and the manner of dressing is concerned, that should be like decent. But if any student is not ready to change that, we cannot actually particularly force that student to actually do that. But we can definitely remind the student that there is certain dress code of the school, and the student needs to actually abide by the rules. And we can bring it to the, in fact, notice of the principal. And I can, before doing that, taking this to the principal, I would try to actually explain him the importance of dressing well and properly. So that will actually bring him into the unity of the class. That the class is like a unit, and all of the class should be have in a single unified way, so that we can get the maximum output from the class.
All right, Tiwari, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much, sir.